The things some people do to keep the lipozine checks coming in.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, all about Nikki, a fabulous first season. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets Clueless in this absolutely fabulous African-American 1990s teen sitcom. Get all 13 episodes of All About Nikki, the fabulous first season, in paperback and e-readers today.
I was on gboot2786's live stream when he showed me a series of tweets exchanged between YouTuber Nicole's View and actress Holly Robinson Peete. And I was deeply disappointed to see your Holly Robinson Peete going out here and supporting this buckwheat W. Kamau Bell. Now, your Holly Robinson Peete goes on in the tweet to say that some folks just won't see the truth, that her father wrote for Picture Pages and The Cosby Show, and she heard these stories for years and thanked your W. Kamau Bell for his courage. But what's really ironic here is that with this tweet, your Holly Robinson Peete shows her cowardice, similar to your W. Kamau Bell, in that they're going to just go along with the white supremacist program promoting lies about Bill Cosby instead of standing by the facts and the truth. Because the facts of the case of Bill Cosby were not presented in that docuganda that your W. Kamau Bell put together. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. No, that entire so-called documentary was nothing more than a 4-hour hit piece filled with a lot of misinformation and lies designed to demonize Bill Cosby. It presented all of the side of many of people who had issues with Bill Cosby, but never presented Mr. Cosby himself, and in fact edited out footage of one of his lawyers, Tom Mesereau, that did not fit the narrative of your We Need to Talk of W. Kamau Bell's We Need to Talk About Bill Cosby as related to demonizing him. And that's where this documentary turns into docuganda, because a true to the game documentary filmmaker, they want to go out here and present both sides of the story so that the viewer can make their own observations regarding the details and then draw their own conclusions regarding whatever is being presented to them. Because if you're making a documentary, you want to follow the standards of journalism and remain objective. But your W. Kamau Bell and most of Black Hollywood seem that they don't want to be objective. No, what we've got here with your W. Kamau Bell, just like your Holly Robinson Peete, is a bootlick going out here looking to tell white supremacy the lie that they want to hear in the hopes that this will get them jobs and help them be able to eke out a living in the media arm of white supremacy. Now, that's what your W. Kamau Bell wanted to do with this documentary. What he wanted to do was create this docuganda to show these white supremacists on the left that he would play their game and use this as a springboard to elevate his career, similar to what your Hannibal Buress tried to do when he went out here and made these jokes years ago. And it doesn't seem like your W. Kamau Bell had much success with this docu-ganda, and it has practically tanked in the ratings, being even beaten by an episode of Gilligan's Island from what gboot2786 and Nicole's View presented as related to the ratings. And it's looking like to me the whole Demonize Bill Cosby campaign is falling completely apart. But that's not stopping an actress like Holly Robinson Peete from joining on the train, because your black bootlicks in Hollywood, they want to continue getting their daily bread from the white slave masters, even if it's lipozine royalty checks. That's what's really sad about your Holly Robinson Peete here. She's already at the point where she's doing infomercials, and she's looking to try to get brownie points with the same white supremacists in Hollywood who have made it where it is next to impossible for her to get work. And she's thinking that going out here and licking the boots of the white supremacist will get her some brownie points on the side, and praising W. Kamau Bell for this docu-ganda will get her some favor. But when I look at this whole situation, it's just really sad to see, because I'm really disappointed in Holly Robinson Peete. I thought that her father would have taught her better, because if her father worked at the side of Bill Cosby for all of those years and he saw all of this happening, you would think that he would have said something about this a long time ago. Again, if your Bill Cosby was such a so-called criminal at the time, he would have been arrested for this kind of stuff years ago, because back in the day of the 1970s and the 1960s, Bill Cosby was not that big of a wheel in Hollywood, and people would have reported this back in the 70s if he especially had done this to a white woman. I mean, this kind of scandal would have practically destroyed Bill Cosby's career before it got started. So for people to say they knew about this for years and then still go on to work for Bill Cosby, because she said that he wrote for her picture pages and the Cosby Show, and they knew about this, again, people would have reported this guy years ago, and that's why this story has no merit, and that's why Holly Robinson Peete's claim has no merit, because again, if you had heard about these stories for years, then why didn't anybody say anything years ago? That's where this story just comes across as false, and it's looking like to me your Holly Robinson Peete is trying to get brownie points with these white people in Hollywood, trying to gain favor in Hollywood, and this is just, again, really sad for her, because your Hollywood has not been knocking on her door, and I'm guessing that she's trying to get herself a mama role where she can put on a house coat and some slippers and hopefully be able to get some sort of job out of this. But what she's going to get is the same penny that your W. Kamau Bell has received, and that penny is the tip that W. Kamau Bell will receive for bagging groceries at the Kroger or the Ralph's, because that's the job that W. Kamau Bell is going to get as his reward from these bootlicks in white supremacy for failing with this so-called documentary, which is nothing more than docu-ganda, which is what I call this documentary-style propaganda, which is meant to demonize a person and make them out to be a bad guy by giving us only one side of the story without ever discussing the other side. I mean, if you're going to do a documentary, I would think the first person you would want to talk to is Mr. Cosby and get the details and the facts from him, so that we can go and have somebody to be able to have a counterpoint to all of the arguments that have been made as related to these allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault that have been brought up by people for years, and we have never heard from Mr. Cosby's side, and that is not good journalism or good documentaries. No, only a person making a propaganda piece like W. Kamau Bell would go out here and only present one side, edit out footage of someone like a Tom Mesereau who has presented points that run counter to your argument, and that's what a docu-gandist does, because a docu-gandist, all they want to do is present one side of the story and demonize whatever subject they're talking about. And again, I'm just deeply disappointed in Holly Robinson Peete, because watching her on shows like 21 Jump Street and Hanging with Mr. Cooper, I thought that she would be better than this, because her growing up with a father who worked at the side of Bill Cosby, I thought that she would express better character than this, than to go out here and become a white supremacist bootlick. Because when I look at Black Hollywood, it's making me shake my head these days, because many of these performers like Holly Robinson Peete, I used to grow up watching, and thinking that these were positive role models, but they're showing me that they would compromise themselves just to make a few dollars, and that really shows me is how really sad they truly are. I mean, it's really sad to see people you grew up watching on TV and thinking we're playing positive roles have no character whatsoever and will go out here and lick the boots of a white supremacist in Hollywood to keep getting jobs. And it just shows me how just sad and pathetic Hollywood people truly are, that they'll throw one man under the bus just to keep working for white supremacy. And it just shows me that black Hollywood is not looking out for black people and is not out here looking to push or support black empowerment. And that is why new black media is so important, because new black media is a group that is out to present the truth about subjects, remain objective regarding the facts, and try to go out here and present both sides of the argument. Because while heard the details of Bill Cosby's alleged affairs, I also understand that Mr. Cosby was cleared by a court of law as related to these charges in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and his conviction was overturned because the prosecutor used an affidavit that was not supposed to be used in that trial, and that cleared Mr. Cosby of any sort of criminal wrongdoing. And when I listen to the allegations of many of the women, they don't really ring true, because, again, if this man were to have participated in this kind of sexual violence, he would have been arrested back in the 1960s and the 1970s, because we were not that far from Jim Crow America. And if a black man were to have put his hands on a white female, that white female would have immediately gone to the police and gotten that man arrested almost immediately. So when I listen to these stories, they know that they don't ring true. And when I listen to people like Holly Robinson Peete, it just really makes me shake my head, because it shows me how sad and pathetic all of those black entertainers I used to look up to truly are, and how they are nothing more than bootlicks out here looking to do the dirty work of their white supremacist slave masters, and how being a part of Hollywood has made it into one big slave plantation. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Eastdeem series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today.